You know, making these videos, I talk to people from all over the country and help people from all over the country move to the Winston-Salem and surrounding areas. But recently I've helped a lot more people move here from Raleigh and Charlotte than I have in years past. And according to Redfin, one of the most common places that people are looking at when they are moving to Winston-Salem, those searches start from people currently living in Raleigh and Charlotte. So it is a common thing that's going on, and I made a similar decision-making process when I was thinking about it. I originally thought Raleigh or Charlotte, ended up in Winston-Salem. If you want to hear more about my story on that, there's the video I'll link down below, but the thumbnail looks like that as well. And no place is perfect, so at the end I'm going to give you a couple downsides where this might not work for you because no place is perfect. Winston-Salem's not perfect as well. At the end we'll talk about a couple of downsides that might be deal breakers for you. But for the right person, Winston-Salem has a unique charm and a character that people just really like, and it checks a lot of the same boxes and costs a lot less money. And if you're thinking about buying or selling real estate, my contact information is on the screen and in the description below. But let's talk about some of these reasons why people are deciding on moving to Winston-Salem from Raleigh and Charlotte. The first one that comes up, it might be a little bit obvious, but that is affordability. Affordability overall in Winston-Salem and the surrounding area versus Raleigh and Charlotte, it can cost, depending where you're looking at this, 20 up to 40% less than living in those same areas. And a key driver on that is home for the money. The homes in Winston-Salem cost much less than they do in Raleigh or Charlotte. I've helped a few younger families move here from Raleigh recently, and the story is very similar. They're in Raleigh right now. They have a 15 or 1600 square foot house, a 3-bed, 2-bath. They're starting a family or have a young family, and they're just need more space. To upgrade in that market, they would have to spend close to, $1 million on to get a much bigger house. But here's what one couple just did with their young family. They had about a 1600 square foot, it was just simple 3-bed, 2-bath house, nothing super special about it. I mean, it was nice. It was in Raleigh. Their schools that their kids were going to be going to, there were being rated a 3 or a 5 out of 10, so that was not desirable for them. And their house right now is worth in, the $500,000 range. What they did is they just made a lateral move price-wise. Almost the same dollar-wise. They came to Winston-Salem. They about doubled the size of their home, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-car garage on almost 3/4 of an acre. And this is just about for the same money that their house was worth in Raleigh. For their kids, it's in one of the top rated school districts in the entire triad, so they felt good about that. They felt really good about the community feel, and on and on and on. So just the simple affordability, it makes this area much more appealing versus Raleigh and Charlotte. And then when you add in all the other things besides housing, property taxes were a little bit less, insurance was a little bit less, and on down the line. Just the overall cost of living just was so much more affordable here. It made that much more appealing to them. And while Raleigh and Charlotte can still have these bidding wars every weekend, we're not seeing that as much here. And even though Winston-Salem is one of the top rated places in the country now for life sciences and biotech research, they have more square foot under development than many other places in the country. It ranks up with cities like Boston and San Francisco as far as that goes. So you don't have to pay more to live kind of near a tech hub, which is kind of appealing about the Raleigh area. Just being able to get so much more for your money in higher rated school districts and things like that they were looking for their children was really important to them. And kind of an opposite but similar situation for another couple from Charlotte. Empty nesters down there. They had their careers coming to an end working in the banking industry. They wanted something, more affordable, a little bit slower pace. They looked at Winston-Salem and they were able to sell, their family size house here, cash out their equity, buy a beautiful home to retire in here. Again, in that, $450 to $550 price range, and still just being, an hour north of their kids and stuff like that. And Charlotte was just made it much more simple for them. The affordability, the access to medical care was a lot more appealing to them, simple to get to those things and stuff as well. So just the overall affordability, whatever kind of end of the spectrum that you're on or in between, that affordability is a big driver. Next thing that came up really often was a small town feel, but we're still in a city. And Winston-Salem does great at this. It has a lot of those big city features, art, museums, theater, access to healthcare, a really nice downtown, a lot of the things that you would look at in a city, just in a little bit smaller, charming, kind of quirky and eclectic package. At the same time, it's small enough where it can still feel personal. It's simple to get to understand and know the city and all the different parts of it. And that was a big contrast in Raleigh that they told me that Raleigh was just starting to feel overcrowded, overdeveloped. The infrastructure was lacking. It has not been able to keep up with all the people that have moved there in recent years, and so on. And I kind of had that same feeling when I was looking at Raleigh originally, and it's not meant as a knock on it, but it just more felt like that big giant master plan community. To me, it just felt kind of beige. Raleigh just felt just pretty simple, kind of corporate feeling, if that makes sense, but where Winston-Salem just has a lot of charm, personality, history, and stuff like that, much more appealing than what I found in Raleigh. And people from Charlotte were saying a similar story. You know, Charlotte is just a big kind of financial district. It's not even kind of a city, and I've kind of experienced that thing as well. A lot of the banking centers have went down to Charlotte, so Charlotte's just kind of more that, a little bit more polished, kind of suits and stuff like that, where Winston-Salem, again, is just kind of friendly, a little bit eclectic. And Winston-Salem just has a really distinct personality, where they're telling me those two cities, and I kind of felt the same when I visited and was thinking about moving to them. They're just kind of nothing really distinct about them. Winston-Salem definitely has a distinct personality all of its own. Now, you're either going to like that or maybe you won't, but Winston-Salem does have a distinct feel and personality, where they told me Raleigh and Charlotte were really starting to kind of lose that. Then the next thing that came up was the people and culture in the cities. And you'd be surprised, you know, in a state, North Carolina, about 10 million people, it's not huge. It has about the population of where I moved in Chicagoland, is spread out through the entire state of North Carolina. But the people and culture, they told me, can be really, really different. And one thing that kept coming up over and over with Raleigh and Charlotte is just how the culture and the people have changed. As it's got more crowded and more developed, people aren't as nice. They don't let you in as traffic. They don't hold the door. They don't wave and say hi and stuff like that. Now, I will say, you have to be ready for the opposite here in Winston-Salem. Somebody was going to want to have a full-on conversation with you at the grocery store. They're just being nice, but they really do want to kind of get to know you and really talk. And if you have places to go and things to do, that might not be the best thing, but you do have to get used to, they're just very friendly and outgoing. So they say Winston-Salem just felt more welcoming, diverse, and kind of grounded. There's people from all backgrounds and all walks of life here as well. You have families, creatives. It's one of the top spots in the country to retire to. You have a definite college town presence with Wake Forest University and the other colleges that we have in town. So there's a huge variety of people from all over and all socioeconomic backgrounds and educational backgrounds and things like that. Interesting thing here is they tend to talk to each other still, which is nice. And one of my clients, when we were looking at houses here, they made the comment of, you know, it feels like I can actually just live here. I don't have to worry about just working here. I can actually live here. The next one surprised me a little bit, but it came up more than a couple times, is the connection to the rest of the state and the geography of this area in general. As far as connection, you know, you have PTI Airport in Greensboro, which is simple to get to, but the airports in Raleigh and Charlotte are still, you know, 60 to 90 minutes away, depending where you're coming from. But with our location in the state of where it's at, you know, mountains or beaches can just be, you know, a couple hours away. Tons of amazing outdoor activities, and you know, you already know that list, but it's also really simple to get back to the place where they came from. If it was like that couple I was talking about that was retiring here, to get back down to see their kids, less than 90 minutes, and they're back down where they used to live. But I thought was interesting is, and more than one person commented on this, is the geography of the area is just much more interesting. Just being a little bit further west or further north, if you're coming from Charlotte, the geography here, they loved how it was a little bit more hilly and things like that. It was just a little bit more interesting, being just more flat and open, like they said some of those other areas were. And that does make for some great hiking and things like that, you know, if you want to go up to Pilot Mountain or Hanging Rock or something like that to go do a little bit more serious hiking, you can do that as well. But the geography was also interesting to them. And I do want to keep all of this balanced, because there are some downsides, and I'm not trying to make it like Winston-Salem and the surrounding area is better than everything, because no place is perfect. There are some downsides to consider if you're thinking about comparing these places to live. Winston-Salem, and especially the suburbs, are going to have a lot less nightlife than something in Raleigh or Charlotte. And I know Raleigh and Charlotte aren't, you know, big club towns or anything like that, like you would compare to other really large cities, but Winston-Salem is even probably less so than those. You know, there's not a lot of stuff going on at 1 or 2 in the morning if you're out, you know, wanting to go to bars and clubs and things like that. It's definitely quiet. Downtown gets quiet around 9 or 10 at night on the weekends too. And while PTI Airport has become my airport of choice because of its simplicity, easy to get in, easy to get out, really easy to get through security and things like that, there aren't a lot of direct flights. So if you fly a lot and that you don't hate direct flights, PTI, that could be something that you would have to be willing to deal with, or it might be a deal breaker for you if you fly a lot. And then just the pace of life here is a little bit slower, that, you know, it might not be for everybody. You know, it's a little bit more relaxed. Whenever I go go to Charlotte or Raleigh to visit, I can just definitely tell a little bit more quicker pace of life out there versus here. So just know that it is a little bit slower here. That might not be for everyone. And if you're thinking about buying or selling real estate in Winston-Salem or the surrounding area, I'd love to be a resource for you. You can reach out to me directly at jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks.